I'd like to just review the meeting minutes. I think I sent you all a note about election of officers, and I'll take you through kind of my status and what's going on there. And Kevin, I hope you could run our election for us. Then I'd like to get us through the status of the consolidated email update. Bob, I was hoping you could address that. The outcall system project, Chris, maybe you could start, and Kevin, you can add some color, and we'll talk about kind of where we are and where we're going there. And then finally, what is the process? How are we thinking about updating and maintaining townwide emails? And so that kind of would be the finish, and then we'll get into other business. So to kick it off, review of the April 15th meeting minutes. Jeff sent those out after the last meeting. I hope you all had a chance to review them. And if I could get a motion to approve them in a second.
Motion to approve the minutes.
All right, second.
Second.
Am I coming in video?
Yeah, we can see it, Paul.
Just
All in favor?
make sure you
Yeah.
state your names. That's all.
Okay,
Yeah.
Anna Marie, I second. We all.
All in
Aye, aye.
favor?
All in favor?
Unanimous show of hands.
Aye.
Okay, so election of officers. I think I sent out a note to you guys. I have a mom and a mother-in-law, both of whom are 90 years old. And we're in a place right now where one is in New Orleans and one is in Denver. My oldest brother has been doing the brunt of the care with my mom. And my wife's oldest sister has been doing the brunt of the care with her mom. And it's not day-to-day care, but it's companionship and errands and all the things you do with a 90-year-old mother or mother-in-law. And so we've decided.
Talk
Pardon?
to them and find out their histories.
Yeah, so,
The best
So
thing you can do.
yeah. So we've decided that we're going to spend a fair bit of time splitting our time between those two places. And probably, in the next month or so, I'll probably start heading down to New Orleans and Steph will head to Boulder or Denver, and we'll kind of toggle back and forth between those. So as a result, this will be my last meeting on TAC. And as such, I'll resign, and we need to elect a new chairman and I think confirm a new secretary. So Kevin, if I can turn it over to you to conduct that, I would welcome that.
First of all, Randy, let me thank you for having stepped up to be chairman of this committee, and also to have volunteered for the TDEC committee. And I really appreciate it, and I'm really, personally devastated to see you go as a fellow exchange aide to sell your house and leave Canyon. So, but I really, really appreciate everything you've done for the town and for me. So with that, I would take nominations for Randy's replacement as chairman.
So if I could be so bold, I'd like to nominate Jeff Platt.
Do I have a second?
So, Michael Abbott, I'll second that.
Yeah, are we seconding? Do we have?
Any further nominations for chairman? That's the way we do it, Emery, so that I'd actually talked to Jeff and asked him if he would be available to do it. And
I'm not against it. I'm just.
so no further nominations. Everybody in favor of electing Jeff as chairman?
I'm certainly in favor.
Thank you,
I'm
Paul.
in favor. Anna Marie.
Michael, that's unanimous.
Anna Maria. Oh, sorry, Mike Abbott in favor.
Randy Dahlia in favor.
All right. And then, you have, who's secretary currently, Paul?
No, I
Jeff
was
is currently
Oh,
secretary.
you, I'm sorry. So we need a replacement for Jeff because he can't be both secretary and chairman.
That's right.
Do I have a nomination for secretary?
So
And
again,
nominate Paul.
You think he's learned his lesson or what?
I think we
No.
made it much
it's-
shorter and easier now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that much work. You did too good a job.
If it's not that much work, then I would nominate Anne Marie, but,
Do I have a second for Paul?
oh, jeez.
It's Michael Abbott. I'll second that.
Ben?
Okay, any further nominations? What's that? You having a drink?
This is my double bourbon Manhattan for the evening.
Oh, cool.
Delicious, delicious.
It's very
Uh,
By the
good.
way,
Here we go.
Total Wine is now doing contactless pickup.
Oh, really?
Place
Wow.
online, drive in, guy comes out with the boxes of stuff, and you drive home and drink it.
Oh,
Terrific.
excellent.
Anyway, all in favor of Paul as secretary?
Yes.
Hi.
Aye,
Aye.
Anna Marie.
That's
All
unanimous.
again,
Hi, Michael Abbott.
That's unanimous. And congratulations, Paul. And thank you, Jeff, and congratulations. And thank you again, Randy, for.
Well, thank you. So I'd like to turn over the rest of the meeting to Jeff, if that's okay, as our new chairman. But I would like to say thank you to all of you, Chris, the entire committee, Kevin, for your support. It's been a fun experience. We've been all part of this since the beginning. And, I wish you all personally, professionally, the best of luck with this going forward, especially in this crazy time. So thanks for all your support. Thanks for everything. Jeff, please take it away.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, first of all, want to thank Randy, really leading us from the beginning up till now and really setting us on a good plan for 2020. So it makes it easy for us to continue and then adapt as we go forward. So Randy, thank you for all that. And as Kevin said, yeah, we'll also miss you on the Exchange Clubs. So yeah, you're definitely a loss for the town, and yeah, wish you luck moving forward.
Thank you very much.
So, and thanks for the setting up the agenda. So I think I'll just follow along as I think it's set up really well, and I know we talked about it a little bit ahead of time. So let's, if Bob, if you, the status of the consolidated email, where status since the last time we chatted a month ago.
Sure. We were gathering the seniors that are over 75 and over, which is about 1,400. And then we wanted to expand it to the larger universe of seniors, which is over 3,000 names. And we had some volunteers to step up to do some hand typing and maneuvering around. But fortunately, Tim Malley is quite adept at some of these Excel spreadsheets. And he said he has a way of matching up and it can be fairly quick. That was a great idea, is a great idea. However, what he witnessed, as I found out also, there are so many people gathering data in this organization, but everybody's doing it a little different. I've seen some files where you have one column for the full name. We've seen a lot of data gathering where the address is basically the street address is one column. And so sorting and gathering the information makes it difficult. So Tim's been wrestling since Thursday, breaking out the street addresses so we can really manipulate the data and use it accurately and quickly. But when you have 257 Main Street, apartment 6, and then you have 257 South Avenue, and then you have sometimes the unit number before the street, and some people spell out road, some people use the abbreviation. So what we need, we're moving on with this. He should be about 2/3 or more through it. I haven't talked to him since yesterday. He was helping me actually with some software problems I was having with my sewer usage fees. And
Hey, can I ask
we
somebody?
decided,
Sorry, but hold on one sec. Can I just ask? I think someone's typing. If you just go on mute, if you would, that'd be great. Sorry, Bob. Go
Secretary.
No.
ahead.
So we've had discussion while we're doing this, and we need to come up with a consistent way of gathering data, whether it's online or offline or wherever, but everybody's doing it the same way. And I said, we need something more basic until we can get that going. And I think from the technology area, we need to instruct everyone who's gathering data for the town. Here's some of the minimum information we need, and this is how we do it, so that everyone's Excel spreadsheet looks generally the same. So I think we'll be almost done with this within a week or so, as soon as he gets that address thing broken out. I know on the 1,400 names that I worked on, just the sorts were people spelling names of roads wrong. And you know, if you live on Wahackney, you should know how to spell Wahackney. And so we've made progress. We're plugging away, putting hours in, doing it, trying to make it more efficient. But as we smooth out what we're all doing, I think our technology area has to be in a position to instruct people how to gather data and how we can manipulate it and use it. In fact, I just sent a note to Tiger because we're meeting over the transfer fees, and Kevin wants us to automate this more and gather the right amount of data. Well, we need someone like Tim Malley in the meeting to share with us so we know how to gather the information quickly and efficiently.
I'm going to step in for a minute.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I've only got 3 in my crew. Tim's working 12 hours to 15 hours a day.
Yeah.
I'm texting him right now.
Yeah.
It's not as efficient as you think it is, Bob. It's going to take a lot longer than a week to straighten out that entire what you sent him. It's a mess. It's a clear mess. But the other issue is exactly what we've been saying for a year. You can't tell someone in a different department to take down the data correctly because that's not how the protocol works for that particular piece of software. So if we're going to start creating multiple Excel spreadsheets, then we're redoing everything again. We're double doing.
But we should use some consistent software, right?
I gotta jump in here. This is a policy issue.
Yeah.
Actually,
There's no question about it. I mean, you're never going to get to the point that we all want to get to if you don't start from some place where you get new information or replaced information in the format you want. And it just has to work through. I mean, there are always going to be differences in the way people are capturing it. And if you look at those, let's say we look at the parking department, we don't like the way we're going to match up between that and where we want to be. You have to make that clear, and you just have to capture the information that's consistent, and you'll have to ignore the information that you can't make consistent. But as long as you get the names and most of the address right, you'll be able to match them up and put them together. I'm not saying it's easy, but I mean, that's where it's got to start. It's got to start with people going to start collecting stuff and replacing stuff with the format we want. Otherwise, we're never going to get there.
Yeah, let me just make a comment, because last year when we did the website, I said this is an opportunity for us to get more electronic and try to do as much as we can. Now, the problem is all the different areas have independent kind of systems that they operate on. Like the tax collector has a system with, a particular kind of software that services her area. The tax assessor has a different system. Some of them talk to each other, but most of them were designed for a particular purpose by a particular vendor. So they weren't designed to all talk to each other. When excuse me. Oh. I'll call you back. So anyway, what I started to do last, in January, when we decided, let's do a senior survey for the Human Services Department. We started with the voter registration system, which is a state system, but we have a whole list of everybody in town, every registered voter, every adult. virtually every adult. And we did a Excel spreadsheet. Bob did an Excel spreadsheet of the 3,000 seniors over age 65. And that's when I said, well, look at, when this crisis started, I said, let's try to use this as a test case to make sure we have phone numbers and email addresses for every senior. And that's what Bob was working on as part of the support of Human Services. Figuring, and as part of that, we have a Lapham Center constant contact database of names and email addresses. Constant contact is a system. All you need is an email address to put it in the system. You don't need name and address. And there's 1,800. Paul, you're familiar with this. Their newsletter. There's 1,800 names in there. So we have 3,000 seniors, and we have 1,800 seniors in the Lapham Center. And then we also have Blackboard, which is a totally independent system. And we have, I think, 21,000 contacts, but I think we have 3,000 email addresses in there. So some of those are seniors. So the whole point of all these different systems are different vendors serving different purposes. So naturally, it's not as though we designed them, because we went out and selected a tax collection system, and a voter registration system is the state. So it's not as though we decided how this is going to work. We simply picked a vendor, just like you're going to talk later about picking an emergency contact vendor. So these systems don't naturally talk to each other, or what the format is, whether it's name, first name, last name, street number, unit number, street address. So it's not surprising these things don't talk to each other. And I suspect every municipality operates the same way, because people don't build an enterprise system in a municipality. They go out and they purchase different software packages from different vendors.
Well, that's reality, Kevin.
That's reality. So what I was trying to do was say, okay, the best system we have is the assessor system, because every address in town has a unique number.
And those are right.
And they're right. That's the best system we keep accurate, right? And therefore, if I can match up, what's that? Is that the vision system? So that's a system that we keep track of who lives there, because someone either owns it, someone owns it, and if we can have that system be the basic system to have an email address related to when we want to contact somebody there for emergency purposes, or for tell them that their street is being paved or whatever. That's where I wanted to try to make it all come together. So again, this is something, when I was at Merrill Lynch, our biggest issues were data and householding. How do you household people, right? So this is not easy under any circumstances when to build your own system. But we also have a relatively small universe. We only have 7,000 households. It's not as though we have a huge universe. It's something that's manageable. So all that said, my goal was to get to a point where we have a system which we sort of do create on our own by virtue of taking and building up. We have 13,000 registered voters over the age of 18. And of those, 3,000 are seniors. And I thought we could continue to add to the spreadsheet email addresses and phone numbers, so we could have a way to then load that into constant contact. It's easy to take an Excel spreadsheet with 7,000 households and put it into constant contact as your new database.
So it's
Go ahead, Mike.
It's Mike Abbott. I know. I'm trying to remember Chris to state my name. I had a takeaway on the last meeting. Sorry for no video. I now figured out what the problem is. I had a takeaway on the last meeting to see if there was another option there. There are, and I did find out from my team, there's open source Python machine learning algos that we could take this and apply it against and kind of automate this process. Now, it does not fix, as Bob was saying, Kevin was saying, it does not fix the source problem, right? It just simply takes from all the sources and consolidates down to one and it can tell you where it came from. We just would need somebody who knows how to run it. I can ask, I don't know what the privacy questions are and who has access to what, but I could always ask my son Ryan, who's now living at home. And
Mike, it's Chris Kaiser again. The merge isn't the issue.
no,
Tim's very well versed in Excel. He came from finance 20 years ago before the IT department even started. It's
okay.
the data. It's the data itself. It's so sloppy and it's so,
That's-
they call it, it's in different areas. And when he's merging it, it just takes forever to merge because you've got, even Python, we've looked at it.
Yeah.
It will work. It's just, there's so many lists and so many different variables within each list.
But didn't Kevin just say that there is a master list for addresses, which is the assessor's list?
It's the address. It has nothing to do with anybody that lives there. You could own the house and not live in New Canaan whatsoever.
Well, can you overwrite the addresses with that master list and then start merging it into email and phone numbers?
As an assessor's list, you don't need an email. It's just an address and
Okay,
an
well, that's when I say you start from that and add a column and then try to merge it and like have that address be overwritten, whatever
right.
garbage is there.
So Chris,
And that's where they started. That's actually where
Yes,
Bob
yeah.
started, I believe, with the sewer list, right? And,
Well,
and
what-
inside the assessor.
so Chris, you're
Yeah.
saying it's not a fuzzy logic matching problem, is what you're
No,
saying?
correct.
Yeah, okay, I thought it was.
And we have a lot of permutations. You know, we have people that we have a lot of houses in town that are owned by an LLC, right?
Yeah.
Right.
For privacy reasons. We have snowbirds who are Florida residents, but they have a residence here as well.
And
So they're not on the voter registration list, right? So you have a lot of permutations as to
Right.
who is really here
I think it's,
as a resident.
yeah, I
right?
think the other thing, if I remember when I talked to the assessor, this is Jeff, is if you live in Avalon or you're renting a house from somebody, you wouldn't be on that list.
Well, you may or may not be on the voter registration list, right?
Right,
And you wouldn't be listed as an owner. You're right. Avalon is an apartment house. So,
right.
but we do have, again, the goal was, and it's a bit of a challenge.
You cut off, Kev.
Kevin.
You muted yourself.
Yeah.
Host
Oh.
can unmute.
I got it. My
Yeah,
hands are going over.
a little excited.
So on the one hand, it's not that our universe is huge, right? And as was proven by what we've done with the Excel spreadsheet for 3,000 seniors, we've actually learned a lot by going through that process. And the whole idea was to build a tool for the Human Services Department to know what services seniors use. And there's like 12 or 14 different services. So it was a good tool. We didn't have that before. Everything had its own little box. These people
It
get.
was interesting, Kevin, since data was fairly consistent.
Yeah.
That task was fairly straightforward
Yeah.
of gathering the data. So who's on food stamps, who gets rent subsidy, who gets this, and then we were able to, who owns a house and what do they contribute to taxes?
Yeah. But
That was fairly easy.
Another couple examples of this, so RecTrack is
Yeah.
the system we use to charge people for signing up for recreation programs and paying online, or for the transfer station to pay for your permit. And the rec department gave Bob their list. It was garbage. It's, they've never taken any names out. So there's like 30,000 names in there, but half of them are kids that haven't been in town for 10 years. So we have different systems. And then the biggest thing that just came down the pike, we decided to change the transfer fees, or increase the transfer fees, unless you had a hauling contract. So we have about 3,000 permits for the transfer station. And I asked for the list. Well, they don't have a list. They use RecTrack to keep track, but they don't really have a list of my name's still on the list. I haven't had a transfer station fee permit in 5 years. Given the particular purpose, some things are really good, like the assessor's records are really good. The tax collector records are really good, but that's because they're in a purchase database for that purpose. And there's people that work only on that record, and they don't talk. They generally don't talk to each other. So all that said, this is a project that was my goal, but it's a bigger challenge than I realized.
Randy?
Yeah, so I guess I'm taking a step back, and I've heard about a lot of these issues. It seems to me we have to decide, and it might be all of these things, but what's the real problem we're trying to solve? Or we're trying to solve an outcall driven problem. So we have names, emails for people to tell them generally townwide. Do we need location? Is it a location driven problem? So do we want to pinpoint a particular area? And I'd almost prioritize these things. And then it's really email accuracy. So that's, you sort of, in one side, I would say that's kind of the requirement I'm trying to satisfy. And the second side, I would say, and this to me is like when the ERP market took over custom software. Let's go to the vendors, and I'm sure Code Red, and I'll make an example of Code Red. They've implemented their systems in other municipalities that have multiple databases of email lists. What are the processes they go through to intake the current lists of emails and addresses from the different parts of the databases that all the towns that they work for have?
I think we're going to find, Randy, just like Blackboard, they're all user-driven, enrollment sign up.
Right.
It's Michael. Can I just go back to your first question?
That's the second point, though. I think we asked them, look, if you're using Blackboard, how does Blackboard absorb new data from a different system? Let's talk to them about their processes to do that, because I expect to have some. And then we have to figure out, how do we reach out and go touch all those emails and validate those people electronically, which is sort of an opt-in. We have to send an email to everybody that's in that database and say, is this the email you want to use? Is it the right email? Did you get this or not?
Yeah.
But I think we're going to need a confirmation step once we get it consolidated.
Right. So 3 databases we do have that are really relevant, right? Constant Contact, we have a total of 8,500 contacts for email addresses. That builds up from Recreation Department, which has like 3,000 some hundred, 1,800 separate ones for Lapham Center. Tax Department communicates for people who want to get tax reminders by email, and then the Parking Department. So all that builds up, right? And then I discovered the superintendent gave me his 4,600 email parents for our community survey. I'm going to ask for his permission to combine those, because those are pretty accurate. They generally want to know how to reach a kid's parent. And then we would send out an email saying, as you just said, I just want to confirm, we want to be able to communicate with you, and you can opt out when you get that email. But I suspect, especially in a crisis, people right now are liking to hear from the town. So when we looked at converting from Blackboard, if you choose another platform, whether it's Red Alert or whatever the others are, I'm sure you're going to find those vendors all are bottom up. Residents sign up, and when you want to convert it to a new vendor, you simply download your current.
I'm not convinced that assumption is the right assumption, though, Kevin, because I think if you were in this county of Los Angeles,
yeah,
they're not going to restart a database. They're going to take existing databases and bring it into a new platform. So
with all due respect, this is Paul. We're not the county of Los Angeles.
No. I get it, Paul. But I think they have processes. I'm betting, that they're going to have processes to leverage existing databases.
But
Randy, it's Mike. Can I just go back to
Yeah, let Mike. He's been trying to get
1 second. Randy, I think you asked the right. What do you want to accomplish here?
We want to be able to communicate with all of our residents by email.
Temporarily, or you want to permanently?
On an ongoing basis. So, I'm trying to get everything we do to be electronic, right? And
so you're trying to,
yeah.
Kevin, so it's Mike again. So Kevin, what you want to accomplish, you want to take all the sources we have, try to find all the residents, get their emails, be able to communicate with them, and effectively have them opt into one, at least at one point in time. So it's a one-off, source it, get it into Constant Contact, and then work from that. Versus because that's a one-off effort is different than trying to solve it on a permanent basis and link all these systems up and everything like that.
Again, I'm not trying to link the systems. That's the goal.
So you're trying to get a list of all the residents of New Canaan.
Yeah. And as you know, back a few months ago, when Chris was saying, well, Blackboard Connect has a lot of functionality in there we don't even use, like geofencing and stuff. Well, then it turns out Blackboard isn't so great in a cases, because we discovered either they don't have the bandwidth to serve everybody who's using Blackboard right now. Everybody in the country has this emergency, and their service sucks, and they can't fix it. That's why
I got it, but just to simplify this for a second, the goal is to take all the disparate lists that we have,
right,
synchronize them as best we can into a consolidated email list, hopefully with name and address and so on, so as best we can.
Yeah.
Get them into constant contact, email those people, see if they opt in or opt out, right? So get some type of confirmation, and then perhaps make available to other people that want to opt into it very simply. Like they could almost forward to their friends if they want to be on to it, forward it to your friend, and they could also sign up for the emails. Do you care if they're in the town or not in the town if they get the email?
No.
No, but
Got it. So it's a one-off effort to kind of make this, and then the end state it's going into is constant contact.
yeah, but keep in mind, the integrity of the databases right now for tax, parking, recreation, newsletters, and LAPM newsletters, which totals about 8,500, has a pretty good integrity. RecTrack doesn't have integrity. It's just
I got it, but it's.
Right.
I think so my simple point is you're taking all of the databases you possibly have, consolidate them once, get them into constant contact, send the email out, refer a friend, and then get those people in there so you can get as best of a database as you can for communication to the town members via email.
And then the question is, how do you maintain it going forward? How do you
That's a harder question.
how do you let residents self-correct? And how do you deal with the, Randy's going to move out of town. Someone's going to move into his house. How do I catch a new resident?
Harder problem. Yes, understood.
Well,
So, Randy?
the other thing too is maintaining that database is part of the problem. But I don't think you're going to try to maintain the integrity of that database with all of the other databases in town.
No.
I hope you're not envisioning that.
No, not at all.
Okay,
Right.
It's not necessary. It doesn't achieve anything, and it's impossible.
I agree.
Bob?
However, if you have a policy that asks the departments to make sure that information goes into your new consolidated database, you'll get some of them and you'll get improvement.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't have that, it'll disintegrate into what we've got today.
Exactly. And what we have today, no one had the objectives to have a need for this. They all did it on their own. Parking department has a list which they maintain. Recreation has a list they maintain for newsletters. So there is some integrity to these lists because they use them on a daily basis. We don't have a lot of people saying, stop emailing me. We do have that a bit with Blackboard because we use Blackboard so irregularly. We last used it for the last 2 years ago for a storm. And when we're sending email addresses or calling people every night, and they now live in Florida, they tell us, get me off your lists.
Yeah.
Right?
Bob, did you have a point?
Yeah, my opinion is we need to meet in an organized fashion with each department to catalog what's the data you gather, how do you gather it, and I know you're shaking your head no, Kevin, but I mean, this is the way we did it at Chase. I mean, but you gotta.
At Chase, you have a command structure. People actually listen to you and do what you say.
But I think you can bring people along willingly with a lot of things because I've been impressed with some of the people, and so when we're selling transfer passes, we can gather that information.
They also live. They all live in silos. They all chose a package that supports their area, and they, for the most part, don't care whether it relates to anybody else's database. So that's the problem we have as an enterprise. Which is fine. Everybody does their job, but they do it in their silo, and they did it with a software package that was designed to do their job. That's the nature of the beast, and that doesn't bother me because that's the nature of a small town. A big city actually, and especially the state of Connecticut, has whole different resources to have databases they've spent a lot of money on. Small towns don't do it that way.
So I just,
I think we could make improvements.
Yeah.
Again, I think, Paul, you know what I'm saying. The fact of the matter is, everybody, and these are highly sophisticated programs that they use. The tax assessor program is a sophisticated program, but it does one job. And
What I'm hearing, sorry, Karen, what I'm hearing is that we're trying to solve for Bob how to meld the information you want into something and then keep it reasonably current.
yeah,
That strikes me as
So
that's our goal here.
and
Right.
you know, Bob last year was part-time. He's still full-time, part-time now. But he does projects. He doesn't have a particular job in town other than to do projects. Last year, he did a terrific job with our sewer fee when we went from a sewer tax to it. But it was a nightmare trying to convert 33,000. How many accounts are in the sewer district?
If I were younger, I'd take the
30.
job.
okay, I'm going to raise my hand. Sorry, I know you can't see me.
go ahead.
I was on mute. I talked to my son. If you want somebody, Ryan, he's graduating from Columbia in computer science, going for a PhD in physics next fall. In 2 weeks, he'll be back. If you want him to help, he is like a computer science guru that can pull this together. But I'm going to pause it because I heard what Chris was saying. Say I kind of got it figured out how to match, right? So he can burn into this thing like you've never seen before, right? I mean, he's got access to supercomputers at the NSA if he needs to use it. But I don't think you're going to need that to do this.
That'll
did
crack
this
people.
I did this
Whoa, Mike, that might be fun.
No, this is what he does. He does this type of
Right.
stuff. So if you want him, he's willing to volunteer and help in a couple weeks, Bob, if that's helpful to you. But I don't know if that's going to solve the problem.
I want him to be my new
I
best friend.
already did this, excuse me, I already did this years ago at Citibank when my son, who is a computer science major, needed a summer job. And I got him a summer job working in the personnel area of Citibank, melding databases. He was bored out of his mind.
Oh, he'll be bored too, but he'll do it for a week or two and give it a
Okay.
shot.
Like,
So-
I appreciate the offer, but I mean, in some ways, this literally is, I want this to end up in Constant Contact, where we already have 8,500.
Well,
Right.
Kevin, what he would do, he would put them all together. You'd put it in Constant Contact.
Exactly.
Once it's done. This is just, that's why I asked, is this a one-off question of taking all these disparate databases, merging them, fuzzy logic, trying to get the best you can, and then driving it to Constant Contact?
Right.
That's what
So-
once it's
Okay.
there, it's done.
Right.
There's just this overall goal that we had then to create this opt-in, opt-out system from the website, which we need a working database in order to do that. So I guess the first goal is to have a database that is consistent. But then we were thinking of getting a opt-in, opt-out name collection, email collection, and an email list. Sort of you can cross the boxes of which
Forget
list
phone number.
you want to be in, and for that you'd kind of want to have everybody in the same system. But it seems to me right now that we're walking out of that optional goal.
Well, I have an Excel spreadsheet, and the biggest list we have is the voter registration list for 13,000 people.
Right.
Right now, there's some bad names in there because there's young people that have moved out of town, but they're still considered active voters until they finally depart. And we have dead people in there, but actually, Bob actually was working part-time in the registrar's office. The registrar list is relatively accurate because they do eliminate dead people and stuff. But the point is that that's the biggest universe we have. And that's an Excel spreadsheet, right? So if you start there and you start matching that up with the Constant Contact list, which is 8,500, and then, so I don't think it's, there's got to be ways, as Timmy, buddy, could do by taking an Excel spreadsheet. And by the way, the voter registration list is it's a state system to start with, right? They keep first name, last name, street number, unit number, street address, right? And that's what we built your initial spreadsheet for the seniors out of, which is a format of the voter registration list.
So let me just pause here and maybe put a bow on this, because I think we have it. I think it's just to wrap a couple things. One, Kevin, you hear loud and clear, a common, if we can get these different data, lists into one would be phenomenal. So I think sounds like there's some ideas out there, but we're still we haven't cracked the code yet. I don't know if Mike, your idea of at least looking if there's something that potentially could help on that side would be great. I think that addresses the first point of potentially bringing them together. I think the second point we have to think about, and maybe noodle on this for next time, is the ongoing maintenance, right? So we can get to that first point, and then how do we do the ongoing maintenance?
Right.
And then Anna Marie, your point of, all right, from there, how can we allow the opt-in, opt-out? So my thought is, all right, let's, if we take a look, Mike, I don't know if you're willing to with Ryan to talk to Bob or to Chris.
Yeah, I think I'm more than happy to do that, Bob. Talk to you.
Oh, that'd be great.
And then
Just because I think then we could then have another assessment when we get back in a month that would have a good feel to say, okay, now we have a little bit further what we're looking at least from a third party eye. And then we can, assess from there.
Yeah.
Because I think it's hard for us to solve it on this call.
And when we're talking about this, talking with Chris's group, because I try to circle back with them, because otherwise I'll be spinning my wheels. And then they say, well, we've already got a way of doing it easier.
Okay.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Chris's people are mainly hardware guys, and they don't build systems. We buy systems, right?
Right. Yeah.
We don't build software. So
Although we keep them running, boss.
and
Sometimes we know a little more than their own engineers.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not blowing smoke up his tail, but they've been very helpful to the efforts.
but they have full-time jobs keeping the systems running.
All right. So does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, that's very. Maybe my vision of what I can accomplish in a municipal environment is not that easy, because
Right.
we do live in silos by the nature of the beast, and it's hard to. I thought this is doable, and it is doable for the seniors because there's only 3,000 population. We've
Right.
accomplished a lot with 3,000. Scaling it up to 12,000 adults
Right.
it's harder. But I still have the pieces there. I have pieces
Yeah.
of parking.
No, I mean, the key is you've got the pieces. So
Yeah.
let's take that, let's table it till next time. Mike, if you would mind taking that, at least to be able to take a, independent eye to it and give your perspective would be great. And we could circle back next month.
Can I just add one thing to this?
Please.
And it's all that, and Mike, yes, thanks for your son's abilities and his willingness. But I think we're more than, Kevin, we had discussed this in the beginning. It's not just constant contact for email out. We want geofencing. We want a system where we can take a particular neighborhood, and constant contact doesn't do that.
No.
Constant contact is nothing but a campaign.
I know
So-
that's why I think geofencing is beyond my scope.
Yeah, okay. So, Mike, as your son comes, just to give him what we're looking to actually accomplish, we want to be able to take a particular area and notify them: gas leak, water main break, street paving, lights out, trees down, things like that.
That's your ultimate goal. See, you have to have address and geofencing around those
Right.
addresses.
Right.
I understand.
Okay.
So it's not. So the answer is not just email address. It's email address and accurate address.
Right. And at the same time, if we're going to keep up and we're going to move on, which we are going to do, and Jeff, and I'll get off to the alcohol system, is we're also going to need text messages. So we're going to need some kind of phone number.
Well,
Right.
it's so this goes back to Andrew's. I now know the questions to ask. It's probably not worth burning more cycles on here, but I know exactly what you're asking for. And Anna Marie's point is spot on too, which is where does it go and how does it stay there, and how do you keep where at least do we want to give a fighting chance of keeping it up to date?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Okay.
got it. I'll take it up.
It
Sounds
also
good.
occurred to me there may be some towns out in California, Palo Alto, California, where they're very techy, that maybe some local governments have figured this out, and there's a package out there.
Right.
Because techie areas probably think this is absurd. We're doing it this way.
Okay. So just in interest of time, this was good discussion. Let's move on to our next topic, which is, I know, related to a certain degree, which is the out-call system. So if I could ask Chris to update on our current, as we all know the out-call system very well over the last 2 months, as we get the phone calls and emails.
Yeah.
And I guess, as I understand, one of the issues, which I think we've all experienced, is the when the voicemail comes out or the message comes out, it pauses and stops at times. I'm sure there's other issues, including costs, but I know that was one of them. So,
How many of you are getting 2 emails?
oh yeah.
Okay, because
I'm getting 2 emails
we're
and
using
2 phone
Blackboard.
calls.
we're
And
using
then
Blackboard,
my husband gets 2 emails and 2 phone calls.
and I get 2. So we're using Blackboard's emails, which are only 3,000, and we're using the 85 in Constant Contact, which is the compilation of parking, recreation, Lapham Center.
Right.
So that's why you're getting 2 emails. They look, they have different looks because 2 different systems are sending it to you.
Right.
Sal takes the email that Mike sends out for Blackboard and converts it into a Constant Contact. Is he doing that, he's doing that manually, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Manual campaign.
So Mike loads up Blackboard, sends Sal the email that's going to go into Blackboard, and Sal turns it around within minutes and sends it out as a Constant Contact blast out. So that's why you're getting 2 emails. Ideally, we would consolidate that into one system. And that was my vision, because Blackboard turned out to be clunky in an emergency, and it was also pricey 2 years ago when I first said, why are we paying $15,000 for a system that we use once a year, if at all? It's an emergency system, and we'd only have emergencies usually once or every other year. So at least Chris negotiated a 3-year deal, which was
Less than $11,000 for 3 years.
yeah, but we were paying $15,000 a year.
Right.
A year.
Maybe 6 times the usage.
So just so I understand, the desire is to move to assess and look for another system that has better functionality, potentially lower cost, but just a better overall system. Is that correct?
And Chris looked at other vendors.
So yeah, Chris, if you would mind just sort of outline what you've done in the process to date.
Yep. Actually, I'm going to rename myself. I forgot I didn't have Chris Kaiser here, so just for the viewers. A year plus ago, we had looked at 6 or 7 different solutions that could handle exactly what we were trying to do and accomplish. One was on the state bid, and with the state contract here, we would not have to go out to bid, if you will. We could go ahead and use them. And we picked it apart. The idea was to lower the rate and get a better performance out of whatever we were using. But to be honest, we weren't using it at all. It didn't come from Town Hall. It didn't come from IT. It didn't come. EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, ran it all. And they're the ones that first signed up with it years ago.
Well, it's just Mike, though. Mike's been doing that for 10 years.
No, it was actually before him. It was Jim Cole. God rest his soul. Jim first signed up for it years ago.
Yeah.
And so we had never been privy to it. We never had credentials. We didn't know who, what, when, or how, and they would just give us a link and say, sign up for this on the website, if you will. And it was kind of their baby. So we've looked at, like I said, 6 different, and I brought them all back up. I sent out the email to Randy and to Kevin. And I'm more than happy to revisit and bring the people from those vendors in so that we can sit down and discuss this. There are 2 that I had noted back in the day, if you will, a year plus. And I think to this day, there's still, one of them's on state contract. Code Red is excellent. People like them. They're pretty simplistic. And the other one is Rave Mobile, which is out of Massachusetts. And this is not a pitch for my town, but they do all of the communications for my town, whether it be the school system or town or police, fire, EMS. And then there were a couple more that were a little out of control, a little pricey, very expensive for our usage. So and they've all grown. So the idea now is to do exactly kind of what we're doing over in our HRs. We're looking at new software. So I think we bring them all in. I think we do a presentation with everybody, and I think we figure out who's best fit for New Canaan.
Chris, this is Paul.
Yes, sir.
What did Rave Mobile replace or offer to do that was different, or why were they chosen? Those would be good things to know if you have a chance to talk to the people in where is it? Orange, Brentford, whatever.
Yeah, Orange. They're in different municipals and in different towns and Board of Eds. To be honest with you, they use them for everything, and this is where we wanted a little synergy with the Board of Ed. We were going through this at the same time, about a year plus, and what I said to the Board of Ed was, where are you going with this? And they weren't sure they were going to change until December. Well, they went with, it's called School Messenger. So they went with a particular piece of software, but it doesn't mean that we can't, and I called and contacted them. And then it kind of all went away when COVID came out, to be honest with you. So it's not that we can't use them and we can't have some synergy that way. It's just, we need to take and pick apart, what are we trying to do? And who do we want to be with, and what the price is. So
Chris, it's Jeff, one question. So similar to what we did with websites, is sort of, we had a set of criteria. Do you have sort of your criteria saying these are the must-haves, these would be the nice-to-haves, just, so that we can, so for your assessment across the different vendors?
I sent that out because this was never on me.
Okay.
I got so much else going on. It was, what I would like to see as a parent and as a taxpayer, what I want to see and what I want to know is how I brought them in as the criteria. But I sent that out to even Mike for the EOC because we can't make this decision and say, let's cut it out. It doesn't work for emergency operations either. So collectively, we need to know from everybody, every player, what they're looking and what they expect. And that's going back to geofencing. It's going back to text messaging, not just emailing. It's address. Is it owner? Is it renter? There's a lot of information that we're going to need to compile here.
I don't look at it that way, Chris.
Okay.
Mike's the only one that uses the system. In fact,
but he's not going to be. Tiger's going to use it. So if Tiger uses it for any kind of, say, gas leak, whatever that may be.
Well,
so
okay, then you have a different vision as to.
Well, that's what we discussed in the beginning. Sorry, I almost had a picture fall in my head over here.
But that's where when you said that Blackboard had capabilities that we weren't using and it had geofencing.
And they do, but they're clunky as hell. You're right.
Well, no, but I thought we were going to be able to take my goal of having an email address for every resident and use Blackboard, but then Blackboard has turned out to be a piece of garbage.
It'll do what you want it to do, Kevin. No one's used it to its potential, but it does have quirky parts of it that no one can explain. Every time I get a second, when it restarts the message, I have their app on my phone. I send them a text to their tech department. Why am I getting this twice? Why? Here it is. I voice recorded it, sent it back to you. Why am I getting this? Then I'll get, we fixed it. It'll work for 2 or 3 more outcalls, and then it'll go south. Now, granted, a year and a half ago, I wanted to get rid of them, right? But it didn't happen because no one wanted to break off from them, and that came from this. This is crazy. It's the EEOC, but Jack Hennessy, the head of the fire chief, he's the one that signs off on it.
I know.
So Mike uses it, but it comes out of Jack's budget.
I know, but the reality is, Mike. Anyway, let's.
No, I totally understand it. I would like to, just like when we moved on to the website, I wanted out of there for the longest time. This is not a solution for New Canaan. It doesn't work for us.
We need an emergency communication system, right?
Absolutely.
Current one we have was too expensive before, and it just doesn't work the way it should.
Right. Absolutely.
So Kevin, if that's our main purpose of this,
yeah,
it sounds like there are other ones. We should definitely entertain those, right, and understand that, but still make sure we're meeting that core need, right? So,
and again, if it has other capabilities that can achieve what I wanted to achieve, I welcome them. But
right.
The EOC has their own. They want to have just like the Board of Ed has a system that communicates when they want it to communicate.
Yeah. So do we have a list from Mike Handler of this, whatever system has to have these 10 requirements in it, or must have, like, would like to have? just I'm thinking how, thinking through that, a process of assessing the different vendors in a way to,
Well, one criteria is a friendly user face for the resident to sign up, because Blackboard is not that great. And I don't know whether Red Alert or Code Red or these other ones, you'd want to look at their user interface. And you can do that easily by going to sign up. Darien, I think, uses Red Alert, or Stanford uses Red Alert. You can go and sign up on somebody else's and just test it. Every other town around us, I'm sure, if you go to their website, you're going to find their emergency communications. And some of them, so that we can sample them just by going to other towns' websites and seeing what they have.
Right. It's Code Red is the popular in Connecticut. I believe they're still on state contract. And it works well. One of our,
When I used it 2 weeks ago, it's simply on a laptop, it's like a dashboard, right? And you say you want to record a message.
Yep.
It gives you a number. Call in on your phone to record the message, and then you press go, and it sends out the emails, and it sends out the phone numbers or the calls, and it also sends out text messages. People can load it up with their email address, phone number, or cell number if they're going to get text messages. And then and some people have all three. Some people have an email address, a landline, and a cell phone.
so it sounds like all of them do the core requirement of being able to send out that message through whatever method you've signed up for.
They're emergency messages. That's
Right.
what systems are built for.
So you're saying the real difference besides cost is really around the user interface or what we should consider is around the user interface for residents to be able to go on, sign up, and choose which methods they want to.
Right. That's one criteria. The other is the user. Like Mike Handler uses the dashboard simply to record his messages.
Right.
It's not rocket science.
And also, I think one of the criteria is obviously we need to be able to embed it to the website. So it just needs to work with the code there. I mean, it's basic, but I don't want people to have to jump onto a different website to sign on to this.
Hey, Chris, Revise doesn't have its own system. It plugs and plays with other people's systems into the website.
right. They have the e-notify. That has nothing to do with their Shalco system. That's a whole different genre, and there's.
But you are effectively, Anne-Marie, jumping over to their website. When you click on Blackboard, it's taking you to their website to enroll.
Ideally, we wouldn't have to.
Well, I think that's the way all these systems work. You go to a town's website, sign up for emergency, and you jump over to their website because that's.
Okay. Well, maybe some of them you could put into an iframe to a website and just code it in. So
you don't really realize you're going to another website, but by virtue of the experience, your URL will change as soon as you click on the button. You're all of a sudden you're now at their website. You think you're still within our town website, but you're really.
Okay. Well, so then it's embedded, then it's just iframe that it's I just want to have the navigation going back to the town site.
Right.
So you are not going to entirely different third party.
So can I ask one other question? If we decide to go with one of these other Code Red, let's say, just for argument's sake, is it we can just take the list and move it over, or do all the residents have to sign up for Code Red?
No, the code.
The list is our list.
Right, but we can literally just import it into Code Red,
Yes.
and residents would never know we changed systems.
That's right.
They didn't know what the first system
Right.
was. So,
Correct.
okay.
Just right now, when you get it, it just is coming from EOC or it comes from town hall or whatnot. But,
The town in New Canaan.
it's a full export.
And when you're deciding, it's just all or nothing. Like I say, I want to get emergency notifications on my phone and email, and I'm just checking the box. There's no options in there, is there?
No.
As far as these types of messages, it's just all or nothing.
I think so.
Okay. Because the
Right.
question would be, is there different types of messages? Now, maybe there's not that often that you would need it,
I
but
think these systems that's why when you said it has geofencing and other things, and did the EOC ever actually use any of those functionalities?
Oh,
Otherwise,
yeah. Yeah. During the ice storm, during the
but how did they use it?
if you go inside there, they've built a bunch of maps.
Well, remember, you built a map, you had a Google map that you could identify streets blocked and stuff, and it was coded to that. Was that something you built independently with Google?
Yes, that had nothing to do with the alcohol. Right.
Had nothing, but I don't quite understand how they used it in an emergency. Otherwise,
They have the mapping out there, so they actually just take the mapping circle, the area that they want to inform, and then they can send it just to those people that are actually geofenced within those addresses.
Okay. In other words, there's a map
Yes.
that the phone numbers. This is kind of how would they do it though? If landlines could be geofenced to a particular location, but cell phones move around.
They go to the address. So they send it to the address. When you sign up for them, normally you put in your address, and then you want from your address how you want to be communicated to.
So in other words, it has a map, and if you can take a
Yes.
circle around or something, and it grabs those phone numbers connected and contact numbers connected to that.
Any of the addresses within
Right.
the
Okay. So that makes sense.
Yep.
But again, this is all geared to communicating with people in an emergency. These systems are designed for that, and only that.
No, they're not. They're actually moving on now. And like, for instance, what Blackboard said, and I'm not a fan of them. They also added surveys. So you can add surveys, you can add questionnaires, and you can send them out to those people in that area. So they went a step further. It's not that they're behind the times for other reasons, for other things that we want to use this for.
Yeah.
But they're right there with the geofencing as well, which that's one of the things I know we want to go forward with the next vendor.
So maybe it's conceivable that if there's another platform out there, what you're talking about, would be a better vehicle than using Constant Contact to communicate. Because Constant Contact is primarily a marketing tool.
Right. Campaign marketing. Yes, sir.
Campaign marketing, but for what you're saying, it actually lends itself better to what I want to do. I want to be able to say, I want to communicate to this part of town about something that's happening in this part of town.
Correct. Yep. Exactly. And if we can get all that loaded, then we have exactly what Anna Marie was saying. Subscribe, unsubscribe. We have control over that because they've already built that into it.
Right.
This is where Blackboard is terrible. Blackboard had failed on this, and Bob can tell you. When he first started touching upon Blackboard, he signed up. He never got the email back correctly or incorrectly. Send him a text message, and I said, okay, we fixed it. He goes, I got it 2 days later. Well, that doesn't help us whatsoever. So that's why we want to. There's a lot of reasons why we want away from them, but they have standards that we want. We just want to move, and we want more out of the next vendor.
So the one that's used in your town is called what?
It's called Rave Mobile.
And what kind of services do they provide?
They have municipal, police, fire, EMS, municipal, and any messaging and emergency services as well. So I get, and all my school kids, everything for my kids, to the report cards, to all that stuff. It's all built into one.
And what is the Board of Ed using now? School Messenger?
Board of Ed is called School Messenger, right?
Which is probably just a simple.
Yeah, I looked at it, and it's they liked it because they latched onto it has the report cards from Power School and all that. Rave does the same thing. The only thing that Rave had that the police liked on our side was that we have called Smart 911, and that's that device that actually pops up on the displays of the dispatcher. Well, if you sign up for Rave, or I forget what they're called, it's called something Mobility, but it's the same company. If you sign up for theirs, you're automatically pushed into the 911, Smart 911 system as well.
Mike sort of said Smart 111 is kind of not what we expect.
Yeah, we put that in. They put that in for years, and it's
it really has never caught
right.
up.
So all I got back from Christine and from Leon was that if we're going to go that route, it'd be nice to have them autofill the other side of this. Okay.
You know, you'd think that the police department would have crazy cool systems, right? To know everybody in town.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
Randy?
Your dreams and aspirations, and when we finish building what you really want, we're going to actually use it.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Randy.
so I guess I have heard name, address, phone number, email, text messaging, geofencing, so sort of broad requirements. I was just curious, Kevin or Chris, do you guys have any notion of budget funding, how we pay for this, and overall project timetable at this point?
Want to take that?
You were paying $15,000 a year for Blackboard until you got it down to $12,000 for 3 years.
Right, and with the contract, it states that if we don't fund it, we have to do this because our charter only says we have a budget per year. So the $12,000 could be $4,000 this year, and then we abandon the contract as long as we give them 30 days notice, per our lawyer's wording in the contract.
Anyway, so
Right, so we can bail out if we have to.
you know, my impression is a lot of these things, especially if they've developed a big user base, their cost shouldn't be that much because these systems aren't enhanced very much. They're kind of basic systems.
Yep. But proven during the COVID, everybody's kind of failing left and right here and there.
I think what happened partly was look how much Zoom scaled up from 20 million users to 300 million users in 2 months
Even
because
more.
they had capacity in the cloud with Amazon and others, right? I'm sure these guys never had this kind of thing where everybody in the country is using their system at the same time.
Right.
So that's probably part of Blackboard's problem.
So Chris, just to Randy's other question around, so budget is, well, first on budget is, the thought is, well, we could, at least the $4,000 a year, we could repurpose towards a new vendor if we decide to do that.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk timelines. What's your thinking around timelines for this?
I'd like to do this during the crisis because the current one is not good, and we have a lot of people that could work on making this conversion. I have people that are not working, and I'd like to. Our universe is not huge. This is
Right.
you know the system. The system has actually Blackboard has 21,000 contacts.
Give or take, yeah.
All right, so but a lot of that is duplication.
Redundant.
It's not 21,000 people.
Oh,
It's 21,000 names and then email addresses, phone numbers, and multiple phone numbers. So it's really, if you look at discrete users by name, it's probably 8,000 or 9,000, if that.
Yeah.
And ideally, we'd have we have 7,000 households in town. Ideally, everybody would be enrolled in it because we want to communicate in an emergency with everybody.
right, but that's exactly what we want to do with the new system going forward. Is what my thought was. Is it wasn't just for emergency services; it was for informational as well.
Right.
So we get people to sign up in one place, and it does what it needs to do. And you're right. We have multiple people. We have things because again, we weren't privy to this. We didn't do this and set it up. We have household members that are say Randy and yourself and Anna Marie are on EOC or the EOC, right? Your CERT, and Mike and Paul are on EMS. But for some reason, they're signed up as a resident, and then again they're signed up as EOC, the CERT, you go through the list, and when someone wants out of this, I got to find them in 4 places.
Well, part of that may be because they have town-provided mobile phones.
No. It was actually it was how people were set up back in the day. If you look at it, it was set up because you have to choose resident or CERT or EOC or EMS or police. Yeah, that's crazy.
Well,
I was in there twice.
I get the messages on my landline, I get the messages on my cell phone, and I get my office. So I've enrolled all my numbers.
Right.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, if you look at Kevin Moynihan as a user and you were in there multiple places, you could be in there multiple places for different reasons, whether you're CERT, whether you're resident, whether you're select.
That's why we have 21,000 data
Right. Exactly.
contacts.
What I find interesting is that some nights when I don't answer the call, I get a voicemail. Other nights when I don't answer the call, there's no voicemail. So I have to go on and find it on text or
Well,
email.
Monday night was an oddity because there was no voicemail sent, but only the email. So that may, but if you think about Monday night.
No, many nights.
Okay.
So Chris, let's say we pick a vendor tomorrow, just for hypothetical.
Okay.
How quickly could we convert over to a new vendor?
Less than 24 hours.
No, but all in, like,
Seriously.
signing the contract, merging
Oh,
the
well,
data.
during right now, Kevin can sign any contract deemed necessary for COVID, especially something like this.
Yeah, if we pick a vendor, I'd like to do it quickly. And again, these things are, to me, it's like switching from MailChimp to Constant Contact. You can do it like that. You
Yep.
just go on, you enroll.
Right.
I-
I've already pulled the list down 3 times, so.
I used SurveyMonkey today for the first time since last summer when the interns used it. It's not rocket science. You just, like Zoom is so easy once you know, right? I mean, these things are not rocket science. They've built a good mousetrap, and one of these products must be a pretty good mousetrap.
So how can we help? You know, can we help with doing some of that assessment of the vendors? How would you like help from the tech committee?
Chris is going to say he doesn't have a lot of time.
No. You want my take on it? Seriously?
You know how you can help? Literally, you know, you have the list of how many others, 5 or 6.
6.
Go and look at other towns' websites and try to enroll in their systems. Because the front end to me is very important, because that's how people enroll. And it has to be user friendly.
Absolutely.
So one criteria is, and see, you know, you may find they're all equally good now, although Blackboard still stinks. So,
You know, we found at the beginning of this crisis, we found when we put that little emergency committee together, we found it was hard to enroll on Blackboard to understand. And we wrote some instructions, and Chris got it put on the website. So the first page consists of instructions.
Yeah, and subsequently, honestly, when Bob had tried, it wasn't just the instructions, which I know he's very methodical with that, and I appreciate that. He couldn't do it if he tried. They were wrong. They had a link in our name that didn't work, and I kept trying it.
That's right.
And I got a hold of their tech department 3 or 4 times and said, "You've got the wrong URL for the return for the email instructions." And they finally fixed it, and then it still didn't work.
yeah. So the other criteria, just like when we selected Revise, they probably have a trial you can sign up for, and look at the dashboard.
Yep.
And they'll give you a sales pitch online as to what the features are. And Paul, you could help. To the extent Chris is busy, Randy's ex-dividend for this move, and Michael's busy, and Jeff's busy, and so between, I think, Paul, this is something you can help out with.
Oh, you think I'm not busy, huh?
And Anna Marie, if you have any, I think looking at the 5, and Chris, you might just, you already have the pricing information.
I'm
Tell
going
me what 5 you're
to
looking
get
at.
you pricing. But if you,
There's an email that has the 5 in that email that I sent to Randy, and then.
right. If you tell me Anna Marie and Paul are in, and if they're willing, I'll set up meetings with all 6 of them. We'll get
Yeah,
you pricing.
I'm still working full time, but
I understand that. You tell me when.
yeah. But like I can, it's more flexible now.
Okay.
I don't have to be in the office. I'm sitting in Zoom meetings all day long.
Actually, I work more than full time.
But I think my point is, if a few of us looked at it, we
Yep.
can have a collective.
No, I'm totally happy to look into it. Like
yeah.
it's
Jeff,
not my expertise.
if you
Like
have the time.
web hosting, I knew a
Yeah.
lot about, but
Yeah. So, and I think and then Chris or Bob, if we can make a list of who's using, either have them tell us, or we can just look at the surrounding town's website, who's using Red Alert, who's using Code Red, so we can say Wilton and Darien and Westport are using these, and kind of have a benchmark as which one has the state contract or the.
I believe it's Code Red.
Okay, so and then you have a framework to make some choices.
Right.
Yeah, Chris, include me. I'm not sure if I can make the calls, but at least from the information you have, I'd be happy to be involved too.
Absolutely. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to reach out to Mike Handler, tell him that what our process is going to be, and anything that other than what he and I have discussed years ago, not lately, but what he's expecting out of an emergency call. I'm sure it's already built into this anyway, because that's exactly where they started from. So now it's grown into more of marketing management, kind of telling everybody where, what, when, and how. So I'll make sure that I get his top 10.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Sounds good. So I think that's a good approach. Any other thoughts?
There's probably also, there's a website that has reviews of these various things.
Hmm.
So we can go look at that.
Yeah, believe it or not,
Is there a link?
if you look it up, Blackboard came up pretty good. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah. And then, Chris, do you have you mentioned Tiger and a couple other people had interest in some of those geofencing type things, what those are, just so, these are the nice to haves, but if we're making a call and one, and pricing similar and one has some of this that maybe we don't launch today, but, in a few months we could entertain, at least then, we don't miss the boat.
Yeah, no, I'm on it. And the other part of that is training as well, which always comes down to everything we may not build these systems, but we sure do manage them. So we want to know who needs what training, when, and how, and make sure that they stay up to training. That's to be totally honest with you, this is what happens in municipal world. You buy a lot of products and what we call shelving technology. You just put it on the shelf because you didn't need it.
Right.
So now you have 5 different pieces of software that kind of do the same thing, but one does it better than the other. And then you remember during some kind of catastrophic event, we already have that. And it's because our people don't get trained enough, or they just refuse to go to the training and it's not going to work for me. Well, it is.
Right.
This is what we're doing. Now that we've GPSed everything in town, right? So with that, we can tie in bond our GPS vendor to this as well. So we'll know where everything is, how it's supposed to be. Right down to, say, fire hydrants, things like that, So, and I know that's what they're doing because that's what they were talking about a year and a half ago. So I can't even imagine what they've added to the plate.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So this sounds like a plan.
Yes, sir.
I think it's good. I think it could open up to potentially bleed into their first conversation, so that could be a great double win here. So, all right. So I think that gives us the next steps around the outcall. The next agenda item that we had that Randy and I talked about was, process to update emails townwide. And Randy, correct me, but my original thought was when we get to, have a database, have a solution, maybe it's the new outcall solution, gives us an opportunity to go out and reach out to everyone saying, hey, now you have an opportunity to update your contact information. Maybe, Kevin, you don't want the phone calls coming to 4 of your, phones, or maybe you'd want it on email, allowing people that opportunity to select, where they'd like to receive those messages. So this might be a topic that we hold until after we get a little bit clarity on, our approach, especially around outcall or consolidated email database. But that was my thought is, back to the point that I think it's been said here, but elsewhere is, hey, look, this is a great opportunity, right? We've, that with everyone getting all of these calls and potentially us moving to a different platform may give us a good opportunity to go out to everyone and saying, reaching out to residents to ask them to update their information because they have an incentive to set it up the way they want.
And Jeff, this is where I thought that, we have a system that the tax assessor uses,
right?
That's evaluation of every property in town, right?
Yeah.
So you go on, you click, and you put in the street number, and that you go down the menu of streets, and then you click and you look at the assessor's card. My view would be, if this could be done, so you update your information, and you go on, you put your address in, and up pops the current information we have about who lives there.
Right.
Now, other than security, because you don't want people going in and just changing everybody's information randomly. So I haven't figured out the security element of it. But ideally, it would be that simple. Randy Dahlia goes in, he puts in his street address, and up pops what we have on you for contact information. Randy Dahlia, phone number, email address. Now, actually, the security is a big deal because you don't want people going in and looking up everybody's contact information. So
right.
How do you make it work with security? I don't know the answer to that.
Got it. All right, so maybe so let's table that for the next conversation. I think between what Mike Abbott had and learning through some of these outcall systems, we may have a better feel maybe there is a way to link to that assessor, but I think we, I think we probably need a little more information.
You know,
before we
another
get
thing,
there.
okay, Chris, could we ask Revise? They do a lot of municipalities. Does anybody have a contact information updater on their website? Is there a product out there that does that?
I believe we asked him a while back, and I don't think that.
Maybe it doesn't exist. The security is the biggest issue. I don't know how you make the
Yeah.
integrity.
No, yeah, we can ask him again. Not a big deal.
I'd want it to be address driven because we're
Okay.
primarily trying to communicate with every address in town.
Okay. Other thoughts on that, Randy? Anything out there that I missed?
No, I think that's exactly the point. I think you're right. It probably makes more sense once we get a look at systems, and we'll have a lot of maybe different insights about approaches for that.
Got it.
So, Randy, let me ask: should we cut you out of the system now, or?
I think
Can you at least give me 35 or 50 days, something
All
like
right, all right.
thanks, Randy. Again, I'll be seeing you at the Exchange Club.
Yeah.
But Randy's an example that he's in the database that he's going away. He probably wants to still stay connected to the town.
right?
Some people
Right.
do. Some people in Florida are getting the outcall messages.
Right. Yeah, I
Right,
know
sure.
people who moved away who like to know what's going on in town.
Yeah, I know a few that don't though.
Yeah.
I just got one.
So,
I do
Randy,
have
go
just
ahead.
one more thing, and it's probably for Kevin and Jeff now, and I know we've talked about this when I mentioned I was going to be leaving, but I know you'll have a spot if you haven't figured out who to put back on the committee as another committee person. And I don't have any names or suggestions, but I would encourage you all to not lose sight of that and try to keep the committee at its full complement as opposed to operating with fewer people.
Is that something you could send inquiries to RTC and DTC or whatever political parties you may include in that inquiry?
It's not political so much as talent. I mean, I'd like someone
Yeah.
with a technology background. That's what you guys all have, various aspects of technology and online. And
Right.
So I think IBM made sense with Randy. And Mike, I appreciate all the time I get from you.
Right.
Busy guy.
I
And,
appreciate Kevin.
Okay, so yeah, Randy, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I think
Okay,
Kevin,
one project you might take on for me is 5G. I'm really trying to figure out what the telecoms are doing with their 5G strategies. And
They're in full-fledged rollout. That's probably a topic for another day.
yeah, it's really-
just
it's really-
one, so other business, obviously, Randy, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I think that's, Kevin, yeah, I would chat with you as far as thoughts. There are a couple ideas I have, but yeah, I think as far as what,
It does relate to the town in the sense that we all have Verizon phones. I don't have a Verizon, but we have like 50 and all the school teachers, all the schools also have. So and we have Verizon, and I have a feeling we should probably either switch to T-Mobile now that they're with Sprint, or we ought to switch to AT&T. But kind of a minor issue, but given our, but we are making progress with the cell service, so maybe at some point it won't make any difference. We're actually finally moving forward with the Verizon on the Country Club Tower, and another tower is in the works. So besides the Keith Ritchie Tower.
okay. All right, so we'll put that as a future topic.
Yeah.
So other business, Randy brought up the other business of the open position that will be Randy's slot on the committee. Also, one other, and it's a brief topic, but just for thought, I haven't, to be fair, I should have gone to the website, town website before, but are all the departments pushing their online payment and capabilities? So obviously people are not able to get into town hall. Now's a good time, using this crisis as a way to drive people online.
That's a very good point. I made the point that I really want to get people to be able to do as much as possible electronically.
So, for the committees, the departments to all in their emails and everything they sent out to, put a big reminder, you can pay this online.
Yeah,
you know,
people
on the
don't like to
website.
pay a large amount of, because we make them pay the convenience fee for taxes. We don't absorb that, but for
Yeah, taxes is,
another thing, we absorb the credit card charges for versus
Right.
everything else.
but for taxes, you can pay ACH. That's a 95-cent fee. So that's the one that's, relatively inexpensive.
Right. Right. And given what's going on, we really would like to not have people, we're talking about keeping town hall closed into June and possibly beyond, and not have, it really, in this environment, is expensive for us to look at accommodating people, visitors coming into the building. We're trying
So
to,
I think you said is there a weekly communications meeting? Is that
Monday
what-
morning, we have a which is largely just to keep the website news section updated. And
Yeah.
we have 6 different areas to get together, recreation and Tiger, just so we say, what's new? What should we feature this week? And we make choices between conflicting priorities. And if I ever leave, I'm sure that communications committee will die, because this is sort of my way of trying to coordinate people's messages. And someone,
No, we'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
but we don't have a communications person. And unlike the Board of Ed, we can't afford a communications person.
So I think just my ask is, in the next communications is to ask all the departments when there's, or whatever social media, whatever's sending out is reminding people that there's many ways to, that there are a lot of services they can pay online, just to drive in there, understanding there's some fees in some cases, but use this to remind them, especially when you say town hall may be closed till mid-June, is, hey, but you can do these services online. It's a good opportunity to mention it during this.
So again,
Right.
we
Bring
have
up tomorrow's website meeting.
we have
Okay.
that coming up with the transfer station permits, which would have been done manually, and maybe still be done manually for June. Because while you can use a credit card, you have to physically get the permit. You have to go physically
Right.
show your car registration, which is kind of annoying to have to physically go to that shed every year and get your renewal.
Right.
I'd like to simplify that. We have a meeting tomorrow or Friday with Tigers people to try to make that process totally push driven. We will say, you currently have a permit, you want to renew, go online and pay for it, or send us a check and we'll send you your permit. Why do they have to come to the shed at the to get a permit?
Only for validation.
Right.
Yeah, but keep in mind, we have the data for who they are and their car registrations already because in another department.
Should
And we also, what we're doing though for the first time is we're increasing the permit fee to $75 unless you have a private hauler. That's what makes this complicated, because since Bob had done the sewer fees last year, we know everybody who's in condos and apartments, Avalon, we know they have haulers. So that cuts the list in half. So then we have to just deal with the single family homes and have them come and show us. I asked Tiger, why there's 6 haulers in town that we license. Why can't they give us their customer lists? Well, they obviously don't want to give us their customer lists, so we can do the work for the resident. So we're still trying to work our way through how do we get them to show evidence of their hauler contract.
Okay. Any additional other business anyone want to bring up that we haven't talked about? Okay. Then before I move to adjourn, just want to say, Randy, thank you. We will be missed. And appreciate all of your thoughts, advice, and obviously probably more advice to come. But really appreciate it. So thank you. And with that, I'll say I move to adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Randy.
Thank
Yes,
you all.
Randy, thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Thanks, Randy. Congratulations, Jeff. And
Bon voyage.
Thank you.
Randy will be talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Chris,
Bye.
Good night.
Yes,
Chris, can you stay on the line?
Yes.
I've got a question that has nothing to do with anything else we've been talking about.
All right, I'll stop the recording now, Paul.
Okay, thanks.